get hitched on the program. There's a story that there was a bridal chain in South Jersey around Philly went belly up. There were 500 dresses involved, and what would they do with them? Well, they decided to give them to military families. A military family is going to join us. You're going to meet us in about a half an hour.
So nice of them to do that.
And they will get married on the show.
The wedding dress is very expensive, so it was really nice. Instead of selling them on eBay or wherever else they could sell them, they're donating them.
And you only wear them once.
Usually.
If you're lucky.
All right.
Yeah. All right, right to a Fox News alert. We are getting set for a very busy day on Capitol Hill. The text of the bipartisan border security bill released overnight.
Yeah, the big question is now, will the president sign if it passes the House and if it passes the Senate? And if he says he's not, will it pass either?
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington. Griff, we've heard from lawmakers over the last couple of days what's in it, but now it all depends on how the lawmakers wrote it.
That's right. I mean, here it is. Look, I got an idea for a Valentine's Day workout program. This thing is 1,159 pages, and the president has said all along he wants to know what's in it first. Advisors looking at it right now, and he said all along he's going to approach this with caution.
We'll be looking for landmines, because you could have that. You know, it's been known to happen before to people.
Now, Comfrey say there's more than $22 billion in overall border security funding, but it includes the $1.375 billion for fencing, not wall, in RGV sector, $725 million for technology, $270 million for facility improvements, and a path to reduction in ICE detention beds. Now, according to one of the architects of the deal, Democratic Congresswoman Nita Lowey, chairwoman of the House Appropriations Committee, she put out a press release saying that this denies funding for President Trump's border wall, includes several key measures to make the immigration system more humane, and it rejects the president's irresponsible budget cuts. We also see in this bill a 1.9% pay raise to federal civilian workers, which Lowy says overrides the president's decision to try to deny them that. It increases census funding by $1 billion, nearly equal to what's appropriated for border fencing, and $9.3 billion for EPA in land and water conservation. Now, lawmakers on both sides say they're confident this will pass despite some conservative opposition, but our latest guidance from the White House is that the president has yet to give a thumbs up or thumbs down as they pore over this. If they do vote on it today, it will begin in the Senate and finish in the House and be ready for the president's signature, if available, tomorrow. Guys?
All right. Final vote expected tonight. Griff, thank you very much.
Thanks, Griff.
Of course, now lawmakers can decide whether or not they want to read it. And as we were just talking, it all depends on how the bills were written. Chris Kobach, former Kansas Secretary of State, was with us earlier, and he talked about how we know some of the facts, but it all depends on how these things were written down. The legislative language could be a deal breaker or a poison pill. Watch.
I can name at least 3 poison pills that would justify vetoing the bill. And we know the Democrats have been interested in inserting these pills, and you can do it with just a couple of words. The biggest one is when it says $1.375 billion, if it says no more than or only $1.375, that would take away the president's authority that exists in other laws to spend Defense Department money and other money on building the fence. Normally there's a 72 hours for every member of Congress to read the bill. They waived that, so everybody's going to be scrambling, looking for a couple of words here or there. It's the epitome of bad lawmaking.
And there's like Violence Against Women's Act. They're trying to squeeze that in. Doesn't belong in that bill. They also want to find a way to pay contractors for the money they lost over those 35 days. Republicans are against that.
Because it's never happened before.
Yeah,
and
so
it's not in it.
You got 1,000 pages. They always try to rifle some stuff in. See what the president says. He does have a lot of money. He gets $30 million for family case management, $113 million for additional air assets, right. $77 million for opioid detection equipment. That's something both sides agreed on.
Yeah, right. But I think Chris Kobach hit it right on the head where he talked about the way the legislative bill is written could be a poison pill. If it limits the president to just that amount where he can't reprogram or take money out of a different program, something from the Department of Defense, that would be a deal breaker for the president because he has been hitting quite loudly that he was going to do
Well,
that.
now they're like, honey, I can't take you out to dinner for Valentine's Day. I need to stay at home and read the 1,100 pages. If you ask the people out there, you, the people who went to the polls, the majority of you really want some sort of a deal that includes a barrier, non-barrier security measures, and humanitarian aid. Look at that. 66% of those polled in this Fox News poll say they favor those 3 items to be included in the bill.
All right. So we'll see where that goes. That's what's going to be happening today if the president signs something along with this bill and have it funding the government now until September 30th. Meanwhile, Andy McCabe, we knew this was coming. He has a book out. He was the disgraced deputy FBI director who was temporarily the FBI director after James Comey was fired. He has a book that's coming out. It's called The Threat: How the FBI Protects America in the Age of Terror and Trump. Clearly, he believes that Trump, on some level, was colluding with Russia. Listen to how it all went down and what he tells Scott Pelley of CBS in an excerpt released prior to when it airs on Sunday.
I was very concerned that I was able to put the Russia case on absolutely solid ground in an indelible fashion, that were I removed quickly or reassigned or fired, that the case could not be closed or vanish in the night without a trace. I wanted to make sure that our case was on solid ground, and if somebody came in behind me and closed it and tried to walk away from it, they would not be able to do that without creating a record of why they'd made that decision.
Right, and keep in mind, this was 8 days after James Comey was fired. And remember as well, back then, Democrats and Republicans, everybody wanted James Comey out. And then, as we heard right there in that little excerpt, he tried to establish the investigation just in case he got fired, just in case he was next on the hatchet list.
Yeah, Scott Pelley, it's going to be on 60 Minutes this Sunday, and Scott Pelley is teasing what they're going to be talking about. And he does say that there were some talks, that he talked with McCabe about the idea of using the 25th Amendment to get the president out of office.
And Rod Rosenstein talked about wearing that wire. Rod Rosenstein said, I was being sarcastic when I said, what do you want me to do, wear a wire when I go to talk to the president?
Right. Listen to this.
There was a discussion underway about removing the president of the United States.
They were counting noses. They were not asking cabinet members whether they would vote for or against removing the president, but they were speculating this person would be with us, that person would not be, and they were counting noses in that effort. It was also said at a previous time that the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, offered to wear a wire. A statement was released after that was never serious, it was sarcastic, etc. McCabe in our interview says no. It came up more than once, and it was so serious that he took it to the lawyers at the FBI to discuss it.
Okay, what's extraordinary about that is when that story first broke, I believe it was in the New York Times, that Mr. Rosenstein was going to wear a wire. There was talk about how the president was going to go out and fire Rod Rosenstein because you can't do that. But Rod Rosenstein, as Scott Pelley just said, came out and said, I was joking. Everybody knew I was joking. But now you hear Andy McCabe, the guy who started the Russia collusion investigation into the president, actually say, no. There's nothing to that. Rod Rosenstein was serious. He was serious about wearing a wire to get the president to say something incriminating. Then they would bring in the cabinet, turn the vice president into the president, all using the 25th Amendment.
That's what he says. Andy McCabe says. He got fired, though. Keep that in mind.
Right. He got fired for leading to the media. And if you believe James Comey, you can't believe Andy McCabe because they divert on a lot of different things. And I assume that would be in his book. Why everybody else is on the fast track to indictment and he isn't. Whatever happened to his case?
Good question.
Didn't get benefits, is unhappy about it, might sue the government.
Got fired right before he was supposed to retire, too.
Yeah.
But we do believe that the Department of Justice Inspector General is looking into the behavior of the top people at the FBI, at the Department of Justice. You would assume that Mr. McCabe would be one of the names on the checklist of did they do anything wrong?
All right, I know what we'll be airing on Monday morning, clips from that interview.
Another hit book. What else is new?
All right, Jillian, good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Let's get you caught up on some of your headlines, starting with this story. First responders honor a fallen NYPD detective as a procession takes his body home to Long Island. Services for Detective Brian Simonson will begin Monday before he's laid to rest on Wednesday. Simonson was shot and killed by friendly fire during a robbery in New York City. A sergeant was also hit but is expected to survive. A suspect charged with murder is recovering after being shot by police. Detective Simonson, whose nickname was Smiles, is remembered as someone who would, quote, do anything for anyone. He leaves behind a wife and 2 kids. Vice President Pence meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just moments ago. The leaders are in Poland for a summit on the Middle East. Later today, they will visit the Auschwitz Memorial. Pence is assuring that the U.S. will keep a strong presence in the Middle East. In the Mideast, he's also calling on America's European allies to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal and back the U.S. sanctions. Paul Manafort's plea deal is now void. A federal judge ruling the former Trump campaign manager intentionally lied to special counsel Robert Mueller and made false statements to the FBI and a grand jury. Fox News senior judicial analyst Andrew Napolitano joined us earlier to weigh in on what this could mean for the investigation.
This tells me, A, he's exposed to more than 20 years in jail. That is so much jail time, he might very well be a candidate for a pardon, and the public might accept the pardon. It also tells me, B, Mueller is still on the hunt.
Manafort could be up for a harsher sentence at his hearing next month. His lawyers say he did not lie. A SWAT team takes time off training to help with a gender reveal. Check this out.
Oh my God! You guys, I have a boy!
The tactical unit in Wisconsin shooting their guns and setting off blue smoke, letting Sergeant Brady Esser and his wife Stacy know they are having a boy. So, congrats to them.
Never seen that before.
I haven't either.
That's inventive.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jillian. 12 minutes now after the hour. The Trump administration shining a light on a growing crisis. A top HUD official moving into crumbling public housing to find out how bad the problems are firsthand. She will join us live next.
Plus, love is in the air on Fox and Friends. A police officer and a veteran are getting married.
News headlines 24/7, channel 115.
You may be surprised to hear that the newest resident in New York City's public housing system is that woman right there. She is the top federal housing official in the region. On Monday, Housing and Urban Development's Lynn Patton moved into a public housing unit to experience firsthand what residents face on a daily basis. She joins us right now with more on her experience. Here she is, the regional administrator for HUD, Lynn Patton. Lynn, welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you, Steve, and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you very much. You know, in this city, you've got some of the most expensive real estate, you've got some of the highest taxes, and yet the people in the public housing live in squalor.
It's truly a humanitarian crisis, Steve. You know, NYCHA is the largest public housing authority in the Western Hemisphere.
That's the housing authority for New York.
Correct. New York Public Housing Authority. More people live in the New York Public Housing Authority than in the entire city of Miami. But you know what? Change is coming. Right. And I want to say that under this administration, we give more money for repairs to the New York Public Housing Authority than any administration before. $30 million a week.
Right. Historically, you know, it's the coldest day of the year, and a lot of those public housing houses don't have any heat.
Last year, 380,000 residents went without heat or hot water at some point, and it's inexcusable. You know, Trump ended up raising the budget for the New York Public Housing Authority by 52% this year. And the federal monitor that Secretary Carson is putting in place is going to find out where that money is going.
Sure, because people in New York are horrified. What about Bill de Blasio, the mayor? I read in the paper he's completely behind this, or is he?
Well, the mayor used to have my job, so I know he knows about housing. I know he wants to help. But you know what? I told the secretary that as long as he keeps going on TV bragging about turning heat and hot water back on, I'm going to continue to be a perpetual thorn in his side, because you don't get points under my watch for doing your job.
Right. You need water. You need heat.
That's right.
Those are basic needs. Hello.
You know, it's...
Okay, so for this month,
yes,
1 week you're going to go into different housing projects.
It was important
around
for
New York
me,
City.
Obviously, Steve, not to take a viable unit off the market that could otherwise go to a deserving low-income family. So I'm staying with 4 different volunteer families in 4 different boroughs over the course of the next month.
Okay, you've been there almost a week now.
Yes.
What are you finding?
Well, you know what? The conditions are horrific. That's nothing new to me. but it's bringing much needed attention to the issue. And, you know, it was important to me when I was campaigning with President Trump, going to rural and impoverished areas, that this administration effectuated real change for low-income communities.
And you really meant it when you moved in.
Yes.
So let's hope something happens.
Thank you.
Lynn, thank you very much.
so much.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead on this Thursday, Democrats and the media went after the Covington Catholic schools over this viral confrontation in January. An independent investigation just cleared the young men of any wrongdoing.
Quick headlines now. Caught on camera, the theme. First, a police officer jumps a guardrail as a car comes barreling towards him. The officer conducting a traffic stop just in Arizona when a truck suddenly smashes into his car. The driver claims he couldn't slow down fast enough. No kidding. And a wild police chase caught on camera in the Villages. People jumping out of the way as the cars tear through the golf course. Not a golf cart.
Holy smokes. Were we close to getting seriously maimed?
Wow, the driver reportedly thought people were eating his brains. People eating his brains. That's how he reacted. He's under arrest in Florida.
What?
Meanwhile.
Yeah, that was his explanation.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they were vilified in the press and online, and now they've got some justice. The Covington Catholic High School students at the center of that media firestorm after their January 18th confrontation with the Native American man went viral. The young men have now been cleared of any wrongdoing.
An extensive investigation funded by the diocese concluding, quote, "We found no evidence of offensive or racist statements by students to Mr. Phillips or members of his group." Here now to react is nationally syndicated radio host of The Dana Show, Dana Lash. Hey, Dana.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Yeah, what do you want to say about that? What was your reaction?
I'm not surprised. We saw all of this unfold on video. We saw that the adults that were present were the ones who were the instigators and who were the ones that were calling these kids racial slurs, sexual slurs. They were bullying them. The kids were doing nothing more than standing there waiting for their buses so that they could get on their buses. And we had a lot of, you know what I really want to see? A lot of the people in media that claim to be such free speech defenders and say that any criticism of any natural right is, you know, you're against journalism, or whenever they attack the president for putting out, whenever he calls out their propaganda. I hope if they really are defenders of free speech, that all of those outlets that went after these kids and still tried to gaslight America over it, I want to see them all issue corrections and retractions and apologize to these kids for contributing to this storm of hatred that engulfed these kids and their families and almost ruined their lives over a lie.
Right, and the diocese also didn't help, as well as the fact that Phillips told everybody he was just walking through past the Lincoln Memorial when he was actually walking right up to those kids. He did not cooperate with this investigation. Meanwhile, the other big story, which is not a big story, it's a trending, it's a story that continues to be pretty consistent with Senator Menendez of New Jersey. You know, he was under an ethics violation, had a big-time trial. You'd think he'd be so happy just get 6 more years in office, but instead he seems additionally hostile. Here's the latest example. When asked just about does he support the Green Deal, listen.
I'm wondering why you won't answer questions on the New Green Deal.
I won't answer questions to the Daily Caller, period. You're trash.
Why do you think we're trash, so much?
Don't keep harassing me. I'm going to bring you to the Capitol.
Don't stop. If you keep harassing me, I'm going to run to the Capitol Police. Because he can't answer a question?
Yeah. Has this happened at the Daily Caller before with Democrats? Didn't Eric Holder get into one of their reporters' faces when they were trying to ask about Fast and Furious? Menendez doesn't like Daily Caller because it is a more truthful, conservative-leaning outlet. And, of course, that's allowed if you're on the progressive left. But whenever you try to balance it out, suddenly it's trash. I think that, again, where's the rest of the media to stand up and defend this media outlet? Again, if you criticize the press, isn't that criticizing the very essence of democracy in our republic? It's first off, it's just not becoming for an elected official to treat I think anyone this way, particularly someone who's simply asking a question. I don't care what side you're on. Right. You can simply say no comment, or you can ask my office, or maybe I'll send you something later. But to sit here and go on this diatribe and then you're on camera, so I mean, obviously he knew or at least he was being recorded. Obviously he knew this was going to get out. Don't look. They have every right to ask him whatever question, especially on this. Stop attacking the press. That's what I want to see.
Obviously, he did not want to answer the question about the Green New Deal, might not actually like it. All right, Dana Loesch, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great Dana show later today.
Good to see you.
You bet.
Thanks.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, brand new out of Washington, former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe confirming he opened an investigation into President Trump. We're going to ask Congressman Devin Nunes, former Chairman of Oversight, who sits on the House Intel Committee, about that coming up.
Plus, wedding bells are ringing here in our studio. A police officer and that veteran are getting married live. You're going to meet the couple next.
There they are.
One county in New Jersey spent Valentine's week helping make military brides' wedding dreams come true.
Camden County gave away hundreds of wedding dresses to veterans and their family members after a designer abruptly closed up shop.
That's right. And one of those lucky veterans is here today with us, Air Force veteran and bride-to-be, screen left, Priscilla Pasmino, her fiancé in the center, Police Officer Joe Mueller, and Dan Keeshan, the spokesperson for Camden County, New Jersey, which hosted the event. Dan, tell us, okay, so this bridal company went belly up. They had like 60 locations. What were they going to do with the dresses? The real estate agency, the company that had the places, went to you and said, do what with them?
Yeah, they came to us and they said, listen, we have this inventory of 500 brand new bridal gowns. We really would like to put them into the hands of veterans or families of veterans that could use them. And we said, of course.
And how did you get the word out?
So for us, we went over social media. Actually, we had the dresses archived or in storage for about 6 to 7 months. And based on that, we then started a campaign around saluting the dress.
So wonderful. Priscilla, tell us how you found out about it and what it was like when you got to shop for a wedding dress for free.
So I found out on social media. I saw it on Facebook, and I was like, oh, well, I'll sign up for this. It sounds like a fun opportunity or something that I can benefit from. And I went there, and it was an amazing opportunity, amazing experience.
Joe, you don't push back on something like this, right?
No,
Great idea.
Listen, no, I had no idea about it.
I didn't tell him. I wanted it to be a surprise.
All right, and he has not seen the dress yet.
No.
And apparently the dresses, Dan, were 500 of them, and they ranged up to $10,000?
That's correct, yeah. We had, I mean, it was an incredible value. And listen, for us, as an Office of Veteran Affairs and the Freeholder Board, we wanted to ensure that we got this incredible value back into the hands of people that have given so much to our country, like Priscilla.
Yeah, and Priscilla, you couldn't afford a $1,500 dress?
No, and it helps. It benefits a lot of people, I think. That they're very expensive
Tell
dresses.
us about your service, because you, Air Force medic for how many years?
8 years.
8 years,
Thank you.
and you're a police officer in New
Yes.
Jersey?
Yes.
Tell us about your service and why you got into this.
So I joined when I was 18. My grandfather had been in the war, and I was just, I really wanted to go and volunteer for my country and everything, and I wanted to go to school and do all those things, and I really wanted to be independent mostly. So I volunteered, and it was one of the best experiences of my life.
And Joe, you must feel the same way. You understand the mindset because you're a police officer every day.
Yes. Growing up, I know, as cliche as it sounds, it's something that I've always wanted to do. Nobody in my family is in law enforcement. I did have a couple uncles that did serve in the Vietnam War. I wanted to give back to the community that I grew up in. I love helping people.
Right.
So every day it's something new.
Well, something new happened to you yesterday because we got the idea to do this.
Yeah.
What was it like when you got the phone call, hey, how would you like to get married today on Fox and Friends?
I was driving back from the gym, and he was right behind me driving, and she's like, are you sitting down? I was like, I'm driving right now, so.
I was trying to figure out what she was, swerving a little bit. And then she called me and told me.
You are a police officer.
I am.
I know, he watches me closely.
How are y'all feeling today?
Nervous.
Are you
excited?
You're getting married in 15 minutes.
Yes,
I
excited.
know.
How did
Family
y'all
made the trip?
What's that?
Family made the trip?
Unfortunately, since it was so last minute,
Yeah.
and then they couldn't get off work, a lot of our friends couldn't either. So, but I'm sure they're watching now.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, everybody's going to see the dress very shortly.
Yes.
We've got a cake for you. We got flowers, and
Thank you.
we have a special surprise we're not going to tell you about for 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Best wishes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right.
And we'll see you in a second.
That's right. Priscilla and Joe and Dan, stay tuned because we're having a Fox and Friends wedding, and Joe will see his bride in her dress for the very first time. All right. Time for news now in Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. I actually got a sneak peek of the cake. It's not being wheeled in. It's beautiful. Looks delicious. All right, let's get to this Fox News alert. At least 2 Americans have been killed in a plane crash in Kenya. Officials say the pilot and 4 tourists were on board the single-engine plane when it went down on the way to a nature preserve. Witnesses said it crashed into a pair of trees before slamming into the ground. Nobody survived. Democrats want to modernize abortion in Illinois. They're pushing 2 new abortion bills in the state, including one that would repeal a law requiring parental consent for girls under 18 years old to get an abortion. The other proposal would overturn a decades-old law that makes abortion a crime. Both bills are similar to the ones recently introduced in Virginia and New York. This might be the best story of the day, aside from the wedding that's about to happen. A 4-year-old gentleman is melting hearts across the country after taking his friend on a date for her birthday. Mason bought Adeline flowers and took her out to eat. When the bill came, he paid for it all by himself. He also held her hand and got the door for her. Mason's parents say it is never too early to teach kids how to be chivalrous.
That's adorable.
Love it.
Well, not a surprise to many. 60 Minutes has the first interview with former Deputy FBI Director and Acting Director for a while, Andy McCabe. He has obviously been fired from his job. He's obviously angry, and for the first time we're hearing from him as he tries to defend himself. This guy is going to be explosive, arguably as big as Comey's book, because you're going to get their perspective, his anti-Trump perspective, a law enforcement perspective.
Yeah, he wrote a book, so that's why he's doing these interviews. Scott Pelley got the first one. It's going to air on Sunday.
It's called The Threat.
And he's releasing a few of those clips. And here's a clip of Andrew McCabe talking about the Russia investigation and why he did it, why he opened it. Listen.
I was very concerned that I was able to put the Russia case on absolutely solid ground in an indelible fashion, that were I removed quickly or reassigned or fired, that the case could not be closed or vanish in the night without a trace. I wanted to make sure that our case was on solid ground, and if somebody came in behind me and closed it and tried to walk away from it, they would not be able to do that without creating a record of why they'd made that decision.
Okay, so keep in mind, he kicked this off 8 days after James Comey, his boss, was fired as FBI director. He was the number 2 guy. If he got fired, who would continue to look into whether or not Donald Trump was a Russian agent, essentially? That's the big thing. This morning, Scott Pelley was on the CBS Morning Show talking about what else we will learn on Sunday. And despite what we have heard from Rod Rosenstein, that he was just joking about wearing a wire, they were absolutely dead serious, Mr. Rosenstein was. And in fact, there was speculation at the Department of Justice about bringing in members of the cabinet to ask them if they would try to boot the president out of office.
That there was a discussion underway about removing the president of the United States.
They were counting noses. They were not asking cabinet members whether they would vote for or against removing the president, but they were speculating this person would be with us, that person would not be, and they were counting noses in that effort. It was also said at a previous time that the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, offered to wear a wire. A statement was released after that was never serious, it was sarcastic, etc. McCabe in our interview says no. It came up more than once, and it was so serious that he took it to the lawyers at the FBI to discuss it.
So it's pretty amazing. Number one, keep in mind, too, he vehemently disagrees with James Comey. Feels like James Comey is lying about their interaction. He did leak to the press. He said because James Comey told him he could. Keep in mind, too, Andy's office. That's where Peter Strzok and Lisa Page talked about the plan that they hatched, essentially, in Andy's office, and the text messages revealed. He also goes on to say, whatever he wants to say, that what he saw was so alarming to him, he really thought the Russians put him in office. That's the same, what he saw is what Senator Burr's committee has been examining for the last 2 years. It's what Devin Nunes' committee has been looking at for the last 2 years and has not seen any collusion. We don't know what Robert Mueller has for sure, but we know that Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Andy McCabe and James Comey all look pretty terrible in the way they handle themselves.
All right. Congressman Devin Nunes joins us right now for a quick segment from Statuary Hall. Congressman, Devin, what do you make of these revelations by Mr. McCabe?
Well, I'd always be a little bit nervous about somebody who's hawking a book. But the first takeaway is that you now know that the deputy director of the FBI was relying on Democratic paid-for dirt that came from Russians to investigate another candidate in a political party for doing what? For supposedly colluding with Russians. It's absolutely absurd. I haven't seen the whole interview. I haven't read the book, but that's my first takeaway.
Was this, in your mind, were they trying to overthrow the government? Was this a coup?
Well, look, they opened up a counterintelligence investigation into a political party based on dirt and opposition research from another political party. It's something that we never should do in this country. Every American should be outraged by this, but this has been buried by the mainstream media for years now. I mean, this has gone on for 2 years. Right. It's absolutely absurd, and now you have people out hawking books on the thing.
Why would he throw Rosenstein under the bus? Why would he say he was lying? He was wearing a wire, and we talked about it several times. Or he was going to wear a wire.
Look, we've tried to bring Rod Rosenstein before Congress so that he could be under oath to answer these questions. So we only know what's been leaked to the press. So you've got a he said, she said in this case. But look, any talk of the 25th Amendment is outrageous. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to that scope memo. What is this investigation all about? Right. What is Mueller actually looking at? If he's looking at information that was based on that dossier, remember, we have not seen what Mueller's actually looking at. It's a big problem.
Well, let's hope he's looking into all of it. Devin Nunes, sorry our time was so short today. Thank you very much for joining us live.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we had problems with the satellite.
All right.
All right, meanwhile, you met the bride, you met the groom. Now it's time for the ceremony. The live Fox and Friends wedding is coming your way. Bill Hemmer, though, has a show that starts at 9 o'clock.
Right on, guys.
And he's going to be with Sandra Smith for 3 hours.
You the best man there? What's going on? Huh?
We're still wet. We're flipping a coin.
I'm watching. Great show, guys. Good morning. This is fascinating what you're talking about. What was going on inside the FBI? More on that coming up. The economy is on a tear. Larry Kudlow joins us live today from the White House and how a 2020 campaign is already drawing a sharp contrast on the issues in America. Come join Sandra Mewis.
This is great. Earlier in the program, you met a very special couple, an Air Force veteran, bride-to-be Priscilla Pasmino, and her police officer fiancé, Joe Mueller.
And now here to help us give them a very special Fox and Friends wedding is officiant Christopher Shelley, who wrote the book, Best Ceremony Ever. Chris, thanks for being here.
No problem. My pleasure.
How are you feeling?
Great.
Good.
Excited.
All right. Let's get things started, ladies and gentlemen. Here come the flower girls, the ring bearer, Isabella and Mason. Come on, pick up the flower.
You can just pick Come on, Mason. These are Priscilla's children. Right. Mason is 5 and Isabella is 4.
There you go.
Good job, Mason.
Way to go.
Oh, right.
Good job, Mason.
All right, you want to stand right there?
Great to see you.
Great job.
Priscilla, you're doing a wonderful job.
Isabella.
Beautiful. Isabella.
Good job, Isabella.
I mean, Isabella.
Priscilla's the bride.
Priscilla, well, that's right.
And now it's the magic time.
All right.
Here we go.
I think we have a big reveal. Ladies and gentlemen, here comes the bride.
Welcome to your wedding. Well, everyone knows that all the